Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Rabble. My name is Brian, and again, I'm joined by Wolf and John, and we've got a guest of the Rabble this season. Alan's joined us. How you doing?
Very
Very
good,
good.
thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, welcome to our new series, called Walter's Way. This is covering Walter Smith's first stint as Rangers manager. So we ended the series obviously with the Souness revolution, obviously after Graham Souness went to Liverpool. And Wolf, I think it's fair to say that Walter Smith was under serious pressure at that point, wasn't he?
He was, because he had 4 games to basically win us the title.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, as we covered at the end, in the last bit of the Souness revolution, that he did it, but he certainly didn't do it the easy way. But that became a theme going forward, to be honest.
I mean, John, it wasn't a universally sort of welcomed appointment, was it? Certainly fan base anyway.
No, I think we were used to big names at that point, and we were looking for some big names. As you guys well know, I was chanting for George Graham to be our manager because he was kind of stoic and just hard to beat, defensive minded. Beckenbauer, I think, as well said earlier, was mentioned. So we carried big names. We were used to going out and getting Christmas presents from the chairman, Graham Robertson, Butcher, Woods. We were used to just, if you're in trouble, spend some money.
Mm-hmm.
So Walter Smith was later on unfairly, I think, called a safe pair of hands, but he was universally liked and wanted by the players. And according to the interviews, there was only one choice for the manager's job as soon as was told to beat it. So
yeah, Alan. I mean, you read, you see interviews and everything after it, and you're led to believe it. It was days after it was announced, but seemingly it was just minutes after he was announced, and the players were right behind it.
Yeah, I think that I think we like to look back in this time period quite romantically, especially recently after losing Walter. But yeah, we're Rangers supporters. We're always going to be divided in things, and yeah, as you guys are saying, we were used to big names, and somebody that was coming in, they'd been the assistant manager. They had came from a coaching role at Dundee United. It wasn't the big star-studded headline name that we'd expected. But player power obviously played a big, massive role in it. We see that now in football. With managers going the other way, player power has its say, and managers go out the door. But quite clearly from what we hear that came out of Ibrox at the time and what we're hearing from the players that were involved then in the dressing room, player power played a massive role in Walter Smith getting the Rangers job. And whilst I'm sure there was people in our support not happy about it at the time and maybe a little bit disappointed at the time, I'm pretty sure everybody looks back and thinks, yeah, best appointment we could have made. Not just a safe pair of hands, but a man that would take us on a journey that not just once in his career, he would take us on a journey a later time in his career, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in years to come in the pod as well. But he took us on that journey, and probably in that time period, the best appointment that we could have made. Nobody could have done the job that Walter done in that time.
I think that's the thing, Wolf. Universally, it wasn't wanted, but the players obviously asked for it and they wanted it. So the chairman's really not going to go with the players much, is he? Or go against them? Sorry.
No, I've just had a thought. I wonder. David Murray, came out and said, look, once he told Graham Souness to go, because Souness was happy to stay at the end of the season, and Murray told him to go. He then spoke to the players and said, look, who do you want to replace him? And they all said, Walter. And we'll probably never find out, but I'd be interested to know if he asked that question before he told Souness to go. Because it seemed that Walter seemed to be told he had the job very, very quickly. So I don't know whether the chairman got the senior players together and went, look, manager's leaving, who do you want to replace him? And they said, if they said Walter, he says, well, okay, he's here now, just get rid of him. Had they said, say they'd said George Graham, would he have said to Souness, look, just see out the season, and then I'll try and get George Graham in the summer? Something we'll never know, but it would be interesting if we could find that out. But the fact that the players wanted Walter, trusted Walter. He knew them, they knew him. At the time, from memory, I was one of those that went, well, it is what it is, and at least, you know, he's a safe pair of hands. He knows the club. And it turned out to be a brilliant appointment. It could so easily have gone the other way. But, I mean, the players obviously knew what he was capable of doing because they worked for him. So,
yeah. I think you said, Wolf, in the episode of it, I think you called it the best decision that David Murray ever made.
it was certainly the best decision David Murray ever made, and Walter Smith was the best signing Graham Souness ever made, without any question.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, pound for pound or whatever. You know, Walter Smith was simply the best signing that Souness made, bar none. Because look, as Alan said, look what he did in these seasons that we're going to be talking about, and then look what he did when he came back. I mean, he would only ever have come back for one club. He said that he would only have left Scotland and kept going back to club management for one club.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true. So, as you're hearing there, we're obviously dipping into the Souness revolution now. For anybody that's not a member of Patreon, you can catch that on Patreon if you sign up for £2 a month. And this first episode of the Walter's Way is going out to the YouTube members and Patreon, and you can download it off your usual podcasts, so Acast, Spotify, iTunes. So catch us on there if you want to sign up and listen to the rest of the series. It's gonna be a right trip down memory road. This with some of the signings and the trophies that come our way. So dip in, folks. It's gonna be a great ride. So John, we start off obviously with the 91-92 season with a bit of a conundrum for Walter in his first sort of full season. He's faced with the fact that the European football rules have changed quite a lot, haven't they?
Yeah, it is, and it was known at the time as a 3-4 rule, but when you look back, it was actually potentially the 5-4 rule.
Yeah.
You know, you had 3 foreigners you could play and 2 players if they'd been in your side or in your country for 5 years or so. But we just knew it as a 3-4 rule back then. You know, so out went a number of players like Chris Wood and things like that. And we had to change our playing squad and become a more Scottish side and sign a number of players and let some popular names go. You know, and it was a real conundrum for the manager. Who would you keep? You know, it's like the argument now. Who's your best ever striker? Who's your best ever midfielder? What's your best strike partnership? You know, to say that, do you keep the goalkeeper, or do you get a Scottish goalkeeper? Who's out there as a Scottish goalkeeper? You know, who can replace Chris Woods? Do you keep your centre forward? What happens to guys like Mark Hateley and things like that? Do you keep Hateley in the side, or do you let Hateley go and, you know, maybe keep Trevor Stephen in your side? So it'd be a real, you know, I think he didn't have a director of football back in those days. You'd have Smith and maybe Knox sitting down and saying, right, who are we keeping here? You know, and who do we need? You know, so you've got to identify players you can get in, and then who you're going to let go, and are players that you want to let go want to leave. You know, can you move them on? Can you get buyers for them? So it's a real masterstroke to get the pieces of a jigsaw. You can get 2 different jigsaws thrown together and saying, right, give me the picture.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, so it was a real challenge for the manager then. Yeah. And what was his first full season as manager himself by his own right? So you know, if only you had Ross Wilson back in those days, it came with the internet and the XG stats and says, there you go. You know, Darko Panchev, you know, we could maybe get him in and, you know, let a Scottish boy go, but nah, but it was a real good job, you know, for Smith to forge the side out of what he had to do. So,
I mean, Alan, when you look at some of the signings that come in, you've got Andy Gorham, David Robertson, Michalachenko, and Stuart McCall all coming in. Well, McCall, albeit joined the week after the first game of the season, and then obviously we let Tom Cowan go, Stuart Monroe, another favourite, Mark Walters, Chris Woods, and latterly Trevor Stephen just after the first game of the season. So there was a lot of wheeling and dealing in that first, you know, early bits of the pre-season, wasn't there?
Yeah, and there had to be. I think Rangers knew pretty early on, probably before Souness left, that Gorham was coming in. I remember hearing a story about that, about the last time Gorham played against Rangers, and the Rangers players were warned to clatter into the goalkeeper and injure him because he was coming to us next season. I think it was Hateley was warned off Walter Smith actually. Watch what you're doing with him.
Not that he's got history, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I think they knew pretty early on that Gorham was going to be coming to Hibs. Coming from Hibs. I've just remembered another story I heard about Gorham. Sorry for that same season, but it was a big move. It was a big move, especially we sold Maurice Johnson that season to Everton, and that was probably a big call because you're right when you're looking at centre forwards. We kept Mark Hateley. We sold Scotland International Maurice Johnston. We kept Mark Hateley. So they were big decisions, and Walter probably obviously had big plans for people like Mark Hateley. But to bring in people like Andy Gorham, Davy Robertson and Stuart McCall, 3 players that were first team players as soon as they came in through the door and stayed in the first team for a few seasons. So he'd done his business well. He obviously thought about it. He might have had some of these discussions with Souness before Souness left. They might have looked at players like McCall and Robertson, and even Mikhailichenko. So he probably had a rough idea as to who some of his targets were, but to go and get the business done and make sure we still had a team that could compete, not just compete but dominate, because it could have been quite easy for us to, or for any club, to sell the non-Scottish players and try and replace them with whatever was available in Scotland, and it would turn out to be subpar. So yes, Smith really done his business well.
Yeah. And John, I mean, when you're looking at we started off pre-season in the sort of end of July. You play Carloway, Queen's Park, we had a Morris Malpass testimonial, and I mean the pre-season didn't stop there. We've got Dumbarton away, and then we go north and play Devon Vale, we play Cove Rangers, and then there's a tournament with Kilmarnock, Sparta Prague, Coventry, Keith away, Campbell Money testimonial. I mean, it was a really busy pre-season considering what it is nowadays.
It was, and it was a lot of games crammed in at the start of August. There was second string teams, third string teams going up north to play. And I don't think it was at the Campbell Money testimonial. I would have liked to have been in that one, but because Campbell Money was a good blue nose, and we were the obvious choice. But there was second and third string teams, and just going back to the transfer policy we saying, we brought in David McKellar as a goalkeeper. Unfortunately, in later years, Gorham injury issues. Luckily, Gorham played every game that season for us this season coming up, because I'd hate to have thrown in Dave McKellar as a backup goalie, who was, as I said in the last series, the goalkeeper had put us at the Scottish Cup for 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah,
Dunfermline and Hamilton Accies, so maybe that was why we signed them.
That's what to say.
2 fucking good games against us.
Scottish Cup.
Aye. But as you say though, there wasn't like the Ibrox pre-season tournament and stuff like that, or the London tournament. I think maybe it was this season we were due to go to London, but we didn't. But no, it was a lot of small teams, and that's a good thing, I think, in pre-season. Get your strikers firing, get some goals knocked in if you can, and maybe beat a few jobber teams, or and go and see the locals and put on a show. So I think that's the right thing, rather than these weekend tournaments in your own patch. So So
Wolf, the 10th of August '91, we started home to St Johnstone, and a very convincing win at home. The lead flags unfurled, and a nice start to the season.
Yeah, but before we go into that, if we go back to these pre-season friendlies, there was, if you look at the dates of them, there was a lot. It just tells you the size of squad that we had. Mm-hmm. Because all these games, we played August the 2nd, August the 3rd, August the 4th. That was the Devon Vale, Cove and Keith games. That was obviously like the kind of the youth team or the reserve team or whatever, because the first team would have been at the Kilmarnock tournament, which was on at the same time.
Yeah.
So they were playing in consecutive days, and there was at least 2 teams in 2 different places, and it just tells you how big the squad was. Mm-hmm. Because in those days you didn't have like you've got now. These are the first team guys and these are the youth team guys. Yeah. So it just tells you how big the squad was. Mm-hmm. But just thought I'd throw that one in there. Yeah. First game of the season, St Johnstone unfurled the league flag, 6-0 win. I mean, you're 5 goals between 2 of your strikers. You can't argue with that. You know, that's a great way to start a season. You know, interesting thing for me is we got a penalty and Maurice Johnson took it. You know, because he was never the main penalty taker.
No.
You know, I mean, looking at the team, I'd have probably been him or Haley, so I don't know what I mean, but yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting that Johnson took the penalty, but Haley was on the park. I find that nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's very true. But I mean, Alan, that's an ideal start for a season, isn't it? Get a good win. As Wolf says, your two main strikers on the score sheet multiple times and a clean sheet.
Yeah, you would take that in the first game of any season. You're, as Wolf says, you're unfurling the league flag in front of an almost full Ibrox as it was at the time. Putting on a bit of a show, showing why we're champions. You just can't grumble with that at all. You're beating a team comprehensively, and you're getting you're seeing one of your strikers at least scoring a hat trick there. It sets you up for the start of the season and going, do you know what? It's just a great place to start from. There's nothing worse than starting a season, and it's an absolute slogfest and you drop points and it's like, well, that's us playing catch up already.
Yeah.
And when you're champions, any team that's ever been champions, whether it be us, the other mob, or any team around Europe or the world that's ever been the champions, they'll tell you when they start the next season, you want to lay a marker and you want to show everybody why you're champions. And that you've no fell asleep during the summer, so you just can't grumble with a 6-0 defeat at all.
No.
Sorry, Brian. I think my comments here just tells you that I don't actually read these notes before I open them because I'm fairly sure the reason that Maurice Johnson took the penalty was it was given because Mark Haley got an elbow in the face from Big John Ingles. So I imagine he was still trying to shake his brains back into gear. That'll be why Maurice took the penalty, I would think.
I think John was just waiting on that, weren't you, John?
No, I wasn't going to say anything at all.
It's all right, I was just reading it there just now and I thought,
because Ingles gets a red card in that game,
Yeah.
And as you say, it's a good marker. St Johnstone were a stuffy side. Mm-hmm. They'd come up a couple of seasons before that. They'd been top 4, top 6. If it'd been the way the league is now, they'd have made the split. So they'd went full time. They were established as a decent side. It caused us some difficulties. And they were a side that tried to play football. Always tried to play football against us, and Alec Totten, had a decent football philosophy. They were a side you'd go and watch. If you were playing St Johnstone, you'd expect a win, but you wouldn't expect 10 men behind the ball and a la Tommy McLean. But 6-0 against a side, as Alan says, you want to lay down a marker. I would think we'll be top of the league in goal difference. I think maybe after that day. Yeah, but because we weren't top of the league for a lot of this season until the turn of the year, so it's nice to be top of the league in day one, I suppose.
It's better than the last couple of seasons that we covered anyway.
Just lose that, I know.
Oh. So, Wolf, we get off to a great start and we go to Hearts the week after. It's a common theme that we've discovered in this series, the Soonest Revolution. We always are early doors over at East Edinburgh, either Easter Road or Tynecastle.
I think the common theme, Brian, is you keep missing out games.
I was just going to say exactly the same. I was going to say exactly the same.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Motherwell. Sorry, I skipped past one too quick. Sorry.
And you miss cup games as well. But anyway, so Motherwell.
Motherwell at home. Wolf 2-0. Sorry, I was trying to read this name, but it's Muscat, is it?
Muscat. That was a. As I remember, that was a fabulous header, a fabulous goal. Unfortunately for him, it was past his own goalkeeper, who incidentally was Billy Thompson, once of this parish.
Yep.
Muscat outjumped Hateley now that you don't hear that very often.
No, I was thinking that.
Yeah.
But that's all well and good.
It must have been some size, boy.
He outjumps him and sticks it by his own goalkeeper. He'd been as well not bothering, but.
Oh dear!
Yeah, quality finish, and then Trevor Stephen bullets a header later on in the game, tie it up 2-0. I mean, two games in, 8 goals scored, none conceded. That's, as you said, Brian, as our season starters go round about this time. That's championship winning form, because normally we start off with a defeat and a draw or a win and a defeat, and it's not usually not usually 8 goals scored, none conceded, and 4 points on the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now,
Seeing as well, just looking at the notes that you've provided for us, you know, I've watched the highlights of some of the games today just to try and jog my memory a little bit and refresh myself, because I said I was very young at the time. My memory's not great. The same name keeps coming up for me all the time: Hustra.
Yeah.
You know, what a player!
Very underrated, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Hugely underrated. I sometimes wonder why. I know that the 3-4 rule maybe, you know, impeded a lot of his chances at Rangers, but if it wasn't for that, we probably could be talking about him in the same sense that we talk about people like, dare I say, Brian Laudrup. I really think Hustra was that good. He was massively underrated, and the laws of the game at the time just stopped him playing as much football as he probably would have liked to have for Rangers.
That's actually a good point. I never thought of that. It's actually a good point.
I sometimes make them.
No, that's not. No, as I say, in this series, we've all come out with things, and we've thought, oh, that's you think about it, and it's it's another sort of little tidbit there. But as I say, as I missed the Motherwell game, we go on to Hearts.
Can I just checking in Hustra's career? It actually stays until 1995, so he does survive. In the middle of this season, he must get injured because Dale Gordon's a name will pop up once we sign him. You know, and as Alan said, I mean, you see Dale Gordon coming into the fore a lot. You know, with assisting Hustra maybe not on the side, maybe to the middle of the season towards the end. So he must be injured, but he does come back.
He must get injured a lot during his career then.
But he does stay until 1995. He gets 125 appearances, and over 5 years is maybe 3 seasons worth, I would think. So we have 5 seasons. He's played 3 full ones, and you know, and get 22 goals. So no bad for a winger.
Dale Gordon's another underrated player as well, but we'll get to him.
Later we'll get to him. We'll get to Disco. Yeah.
So Wolf, as I said, as I said previously, we go to Hearts, and it's not unusual for us to go to Hearts early doors in the season, and that
Scott Crabbe goal,
that goal,
goal.
Yeah.
That's all you need to say. Tynecastle and that goal.
You know, when we signed Andy Gorham, I was a bit concerned that we spent £1 million on a goalkeeper that didn't have the best of records in big games, because while he was at Hibs, he was the goalkeeper when Hibs, as I'm constantly reminded by her indoors, went 23 games without beating Hearts. He was the goalkeeper in every single one of them. And then,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Hibs went 23 games not beating Hearts, and Gorham was the goalie. And then obviously we go to Hearts. The first time he's at Hearts in a Rangers jersey, Scott Crabbe hits one from about fucking 300 yards and he just lets it go. You know? And my thoughts were, here we go again. Is it him in big games, or is it just him against Hearts? You know what I mean? So obviously, approaching games with Celtic, I'm thinking, is it that he can't do it in derby games, or is it just, has he got this thing about the maroon jersey? I was really, really worried. It turned out I was wrong, because he's best goalkeeper I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? You know? Even if he does keep slagging me on Facebook for never smiling in photos, I'll still say he's the best goalkeeper I've ever seen in my life.
I think are we noting this as well, Alan? Stuart McCall makes his debut because we sold Trevor Stephen to Marseille for a lot of money back then, £5 million.
Yeah, it was something I noticed when we were when I was having a wee look at different things about a season. We made quite a wee bit of money in the transfer market that season for that period of time. You know, we made in excess of, I think it was £7 or £8 million. Stuart McCall makes his debut, and it was just it was the start of something special, wasn't it? Like so many things in this time period of Rangers, we say this was something special, or this was the start of something special. Walter Smith's reign started, and it was something special. And Stuart McCall as well, another great Rangers story, and it began on this day. Began with a defeat, but he'd have the last laugh in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, that was a bit of a downer, but John, we go on to the League Cup and we play the other Glasgow team, Queen's Park, and it was the Maurice Johnston show.
It was, just going back to that, Andy Gorham. I was involved in a scuffle at half time with a boy pulling a boy off, because he was defending Gorham, because he'd seen Gorham in some of these pre-season games and actually thought Gorham was a very good goalkeeper. So maybe he doesn't know as much as football as what Will's missus does at that time. But he was, one of those ones in the terraces where it's, who you talk? What do you know about goalkeepers? Have you seen them? And suddenly you're pulling guys apart, and there's a big circle in the terrace. So I was definitely a member of Torglen Troy Blues for that season, because that was the buses with. But no, Queen's Park at home, League Cup, the Rangers Trophy, as it's known as,
Yeah.
Mojo getting 4, Durant and Spackman getting a goal. So a routine win. So yeah.
The original Glasgow derby.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's the second time in 3 home matches we'd hit a team for 6. So we're battling on the goals at Ibrox. So it's a League Cup. Move on. You win it, and you win that game and move on.
Yeah. And then the Wolf. I mean, you remember much about that game, Queen's Park?
No, not a thing. don't think I'd have been at it, 'cause I was working in a hotel at the time. I don't think I'd have been at that midweek.
They had the crossbar. They had the crossbar at the start of the game.
I didn't drive at that time either, so it would have been a bit more difficult to get to it. So
I wonder what the attendance was for that. 32,000 attendance. That's not bad. It's not bad attendance for.
That would still be on. That would have been on the season ticket though. At that time, the League Cup games would have been on the season ticket.
Would have been. It was drip out your wee voucher.
Yeah. Old paper books.
Yeah.
Still got all mine somewhere.
I'm sure mine's. I've got mine's kicking about somewhere. I'll need to have a look for them.
Yeah, divorce took care of mine.
The strange things about those wee books, remember the plastic cover they came in? They were all different colours, and every season they were different colours.
Yeah,
and none of them were ever blue.
Aye,
that's right.
It's hard, isn't it?
It was browns and yellows.
I was going to say I had a brown one. Yeah.
One season was definitely brown.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was a kind of burnt orange one, and there was a yellow one along the way. I'm sure I can't ever remember any of them being blue though.
Nope.
Which was bizarre.
Oh dear. So Wolf, we go on to Dunfermline at home. As John has just said, the goals are raining in at Ibrox just now. Beat Dunfermline 4-0.
Yeah, I mean, as we said back during the Sooners Revolution years, you played Dunfermline, you knock 3, 4 or 5 goals past them, you move on. That's just what Rangers should do to Dunfermline, whether it's at Ibrox, whether it's at East End Park, or whether it's anywhere else. That's just what should happen. But the noticeable thing in this game is we missed a penalty in the first minute.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could you imagine if Rangers got a first minute penalty anywhere against anybody these days? You know what I mean? Your Twitter and your social media jobs just been meltdown.
Favourite 3 words, isn't it?
First minute penalty.
Yeah.
The favourite 3 words. Penalty.
Incredible. Just incredible. But yeah, Dunfermline 4-0. It's just what you do. 4 different goal scorers, which is nice, including young John Spencer. I noticed.
Yeah.
Yep. Noticed as well that I just flicking through again. By that point, I think if I've counted right, we've scored 17 goals in the season. By the time Mr. McCoist scored his first of the season, and the way we were pummeling teams, and what ended up happening that season with Ali McCoist in front of goal, it's quite a surprise that it took him that long to get going. To be honest, isn't it?
Yeah. I know, and only getting one against Dunfermline is you saying. I mean, it's taken until then to get started, and he's only got one.
I mean, I'll ask you all this question, but do you think this was still the hangover from the Souness era? McCoy's out of favour.
No, I don't think so. Because did he not get fined? Was it no? Souness fined him, didn't he, at one point? Him and Durant for the kebab shop stuff and
Chippy,
things like that.
Yeah.
The chip shop or whatever, and I think McCoy's would have been in favour. I think.
Yeah, but I don't remember, but he must have been injured, because that Dunfermline game appears to be his first appearance of the season, and he came on as a sub with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't in any of the starting lineups.
For the guy who played 20 minutes and scored a goal, that's not a bad average. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not good enough. Not good enough.
Yeah.
But so Alan, we go back into League Cup duty, and it's Partick Thistle in the League Cup away, and Maurice Johnson and a certain David Robertson scored.
David Robertson getting his first goal.
First goal.
Again, another routine victory, isn't it? You go away to Partick Thistle. Were Partick Thistle in the top flight this season? I can't remember now. No idea. But anyway, a routine.
No, they
They
weren't.
weren't.
They weren't. No.
Yeah, routine again. You go to Partick Thistle, away from home, a cup game. Whether they're in the top flight or not, it's irrelevant because it's a cup game. You're expecting them to make the game difficult for you. So yeah, 2-0, quite happy with that. Johnston getting one of the goals must be coming to one of his last goals for the club if it's not the last one. And David Robertson getting on the score sheet for the first time as well. Not somebody that scored very often, Davy, but a great player. And again, like I said about McCall and I said about Smith, the start of something special for David Robertson as well.
Yeah. At the time, you don't think it though, do you?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, it was a right foot shot. It was a right foot shot for David Robertson. He cut in and just hit a swinger. Because that game is on YouTube. He just belts with his right foot, and it's just goes into the far corner of the net, probably about waist height. But so it's as Alan said, it's a good start for Robertson. So because I think he'd been told the season before, didn't he, that he was coming to Rangers.
Yeah.
Before he came to Rangers and things like that. Yeah, in the Aberdeen game, and
it wasn't the first time we tried to get him though, was it?
No, I think we'd failed before. So, but no,
he tells the story that when Souness left, he was on the. Obviously, it was between us and Aberdeen for the title at that time.
Yeah,
and they were on their minibus to training, and they had the radio on, and it came over the radio that Graham Souness had left Rangers. He says, "All the Aberdeen players are celebrating." He's sitting with a long face, thinking, "Fuck's sake, is that my deal? Is that my deal off now?" Because he knew he was going, but they didn't, so we couldn't even say anything to them. He was wondering if because the deal hadn't been signed but it had been agreed, and he thought, well, if that's Souness away, am I still going to get signed? Which thankfully we did still sign him because we got 6 good years out of him.
Yeah.
Well, you'll never know. But so I'll take these all one by one round the clock sort of style. We go away to Celtic Park for the first game, the first Old Firm of the season, and again, no McCoist, but obviously, as you said, there must have been an injury of some form. So it was the Haitley-Johnston sort of partnership. And a great one. 2-0. You can't get better than that, can you, away from home?
No, you can't. And as I said, we were given a pre-match boost when Tony Cascarino was announced fit for Celtic. That can come back to haunt us a wee bit later in the season. Thankfully, it didn't do too much, but no. So, and Scott Nisbet back in defence, he liked to tackle in these sort of games as well. So, but they beat us twice this season before, twice in a weekend. So we really had to get our revenge back there. I can't remember the name of the stadium. Wilf, would you call that stadium again?
Careful.
I certainly don't call it, but Brian calls it because there's no such place. It's you call it if you want to be polite to them, you call it Parkhead because they hate that, right?
Yeah.
But it's much better being known as the Chamber of Secrets because we can get away with that one. There are several other names I've got for it, but none that are broadcasted if we want to stay on the air.
Yeah,
Martin
right.
watching this back will be breaking into a cold sweat.
No, it's fine. You did say Chamber of Secrets was okay. So that's fine.
Past the adjudicator.
Stadium names and going a little bit off piste. You know what gets me is the fact that them and the Sheep and all these other lots, what they call Ibrox, because they call it Castle Grayskull.
Yeah.
Which is where He-Man lives and He-Man's the good guy.
Exactly.
I mean, I've never ever understood that. Never understood it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just tells you how fucking stupid they are. You know what I mean?
But Alan, a marvellous start. You can't get better than that. 2-0 win.
Yeah.
Away from home.
2-0 win away from home against your biggest rivals, and so certainly a team that would have been hoping they might have been able to take advantage of a rookie manager being appointed at Rangers. They obviously didn't. In fact, they were absolutely miles off the pace coming into the season. But anytime we go there, anytime we play them and we got a victory is a great result. So yeah, brilliant. And Mark Haitley, whose name will come up time and time again when we're doing this series, getting the 2 goals, and that's really, and as that's the end of the first month of the season. And other than a wee blemish at Tynecastle, we've played really well. We've kept clean sheets. We've scored loads of goals. We've picked up points, and we've beat our biggest rivals away from home on their own doorstep. So, yeah, great start to the season.
And I mean, Wolves, the 2 goals that Hateley took, I mean, they were really good takes, weren't they? Really good strikes.
They were tremendous goals. But I mean, not to take anything away from Big Mark, but I mean, what's he up against? Gary Gillespie and Derek White.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, let's be honest. Alan could have scored against them. You know what I mean?
Come on.
I mean,
Gillespie was a big signing for them, though.
he was also a Cartos.
I know, but he was heralded as a big signing because was it
from Liverpool they
He
got
came
him?
Yeah, he came up from Liverpool. Yeah, so So sorry, Wilf.
And I mean, they've still got the Donegal Tatty in goal. I mean, he must have been about 300 years old at that time. You know?
I left that in for you, Wilf.
That's all right. I mean, he's still spouting his nonsense on Radio Scotland. It's unbelievable how he's still involved in Scottish football to any extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Peter Pointer playing in this game.
Did anybody run Donegal Tatty past Martin? Or I like to say that?
Well, Will said it every week for the last five seasons. So we've not been taken off air yet. Yeah, but we didn't go past the adjudicator tonight with that. So if he's watching, hello, Martin.
But no, any win at the other side of the city is a marvellous result. So it just added to the good start that, as we've said before, the Soonest Revolution wasn't covered in great starts. So it's nice for us to finally get a good start in the season. So, John, we go to Hearts away, where we lost earlier in the season, and Mr. McCoist comes away with the only goal.
Yep, League Cup quarter final. Yeah, it's and Tynecastle is a tough place to go, especially in cup nights, as we'll find out in a lot later seasons. But McCoist gets a goal. Beats Henry Smith again, and this, like last season, this is a cup we should now be winning. We should be winning this cup because we went into the draw with Airdrie, Hibs and Dunfermline.
You're just rubbing your hands at that sort of.
You're laughing. There's no Aberdeen, Dundee United. You've put Hearts out. Hearts are top of the league at this point. We've put them out in their own midden. Put them at the cup, bouncing Tynecastle, and you're laughing. You're thinking, yeah, get the engraver handy. We're coming for that trophy again. So it's
and Gorham finally gets his win at Tynecastle.
Wolf. Yeah.
Finally gets a clean sheet at Tynecastle.
Yeah.
Again, this is another game I had to sort of. I couldn't remember if this was on the season review or not, so I clicked on YouTube and found it. But I mean, Wolf, a 2-0 win away to Falkirk. I know Falkirk wasn't exactly your favourite away trip, was it?
Just a midden. Falkirk was always good because you usually won there, but it's just a horrible football experience. Because, I mean, Brockville was an absolute, just a death trap. It was just horrific. Brockville it was a horrendous ground. It's probably the worst I've been in Scotland, and I've been in a few. That was awful, absolutely awful. But as you say, you didn't mind going there because you generally won the game, but the experience wasn't great. Getting in and getting out wasn't the best. But yeah, I mean, 2 unlikely goal scorers as well. Big Scott Nisbet and Peter Hoostra. I mean, Big Nizzy scored this fair amount of goals. To be fair,
And of course, it was the debut, Wolf, of Mikhailchenko.
Yeah, big Chenks had come in for a couple of £1 million from Sampdoria. I mean, that's one you were saying at the start about whether Smith had discussed signings with Souness. I'd be interested again to find out if Souness did any hand in negotiations of that, given his connections at Sampdoria.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you mention
it was an odd one at the time with the 3 foreigners rule, and you're bringing in a big Ukrainian or he was Russian at the time, I think. I can't remember the history of the geography of that part of Europe, if you like. I don't know if it was the USSR,
CIS in '92, weren't they?
Or the CCCP, or whatever the hell they were, but they were still.
I think we're all going to learn it over the next couple of weeks.
It was still a unified Russia anyway. So he was effectively he was Ukrainian because he came from Kiev. But yeah, I mean, going forward, Mikhailchenko, an absolutely phenomenal player for us.
Yeah.
Great bit of business at £2 million, but as you say, this was his debut, 2-0 win. Goals for Lizzie and Hustra.
Wolf, do you think Mikhailichenko is a bit like Kustra in the sense that he was underrated and he probably never played as many games as he could have for Rangers?
I think Mikhailichenko's problem was he was one of these early guys to come from behind the Iron Curtain, and he got very comfortable very quickly with having money in his pocket because they didn't have that where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
Money in his pocket and the freedom to spend it. So I think he enjoyed himself in Glasgow, shall we say. That probably didn't help him.
Quite right.
I think also, Alan, as you say, guys like Mikhailichenko, Huster, and guys like Dale Gordon, even for a short time, I think we lose a bit of the romantic side because we get dazzled by the Laudrups and the Gascoignes coming in a few seasons later. So you forget about players who were good players, like guys like Stuart McCall. When you look back at McCall for Rangers, tenacious, tackling, wins a lot, breaks up a lot of play. You will never have in a team. You won't have him in a team. You'll have Gascoigne in the team, but you won't have a Stuart McCall. But you can't have 11 Paul Gascoignes. So we get a wee bit romantic about the bigger names that come. And as you say, Huster has 5 good seasons for us and was a quality player. But he gets missed out between Mark Walters, and then you think Mark Walters, Cooper, Walters, and you go Laudrup. You missed that winger out. So there's a wee bit of he's no the big name, so we don't think he was a big player, but clearly it was. So and McCall's is certainly a great player for us. But never ever makes somebody start 11.
No, I think you're right, John. There's a lot of people, as you say, just jump from Cooper, Walters straight to Laudrup and Gascoigne and completely miss that 2 or 3 year period in between.
Yeah. You've got your Haitley, you've got your McCoist in there. So when you're picking your 11s or your players you've seen, you very rarely pick 8 or 9 for the one season or for the one era. But Huster was certainly a quality player. Yeah. Sorry, I was digressing.
That's okay. I suppose, Alan, this is a perfect time to come to you because it was Dundee United at home, the next game of the season, 1-1 at home, and as you said before we started, this was your debut at Ibrox.
This was my first game. My dad took me along. My granddad was with me. This is where the love affair really began for me. I had, as a really young child, I had Rangers tops, but I hadn't been to Ibrox yet. So I'd only just turned 5, so I was still very, very young. But yeah, I don't have great memories of the game, recollections of the game. It was a bit fuzzy. It's really, in fact, this entire season, it's really next season before the memories become quite strong for me. But this is where it began for me. This is where, I spent years going to the football with my dad and my granda, and then my granda fell away through ill health. But my dad took me to my first game at Ibrox the way his dad took him. This is a family tradition, and just can't thank my dad enough for taking me that day. Getting emotional thinking about it.
I mean, as I said before we started, I mean, it's very rare that you get your first game. I mean, my first game was a dreadful game. It was a 0-0 home to Hibs. So I don't think there's many people come away with games and say, with thumped somebody 6-0. Everybody's first game seems to be a draw or a loss or something, isn't it?
Yeah, how have we ever won anything?
But as we've said in previous pods, Alan, it's just as well there's been no social media back in those days.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know we're not far into the season, but a defeat away to Hearts, and then a draw at home to Dundee United. And in the days of social media, people would have been calling for Walter's head after those 2 bad results alone. But I think especially in this time period as well, the competitiveness amongst the clubs in in Scotland was a lot closer than it is now. There's still odd games where we'll go and drop points, as we've done in previous weeks. Just recently, we'll go and drop points elsewhere. But come the end of the season, there's always quite a large gulf between us, them, and the rest of the league. But that wasn't the case that still wasn't the case in the 80s and the 90s. Even this season, even 91, 92, Celtic never finished second in the race throughout the time that we were we won 9 in a row. I think they only finished second twice, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so there wasn't a massive gulf in the difference between us and the rest of the league. That would come later on towards the end of the 90s and into the 2000s. So, you know, dropping points at home to Dundee United, you know, getting a point here or there, picking up a point here or there in the hard-fought games, not the disaster that it would be today, and it's not the terrible result that it would have been today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, John, we dive into European Cup action this time, and we lose away to Sparta Prague 1-0, and it's another warning sign that Europe might be over before it's barely started.
Yeah, it is. And when you look back at that match, we were really dreadful that night. You know, we were really poor. You know, we never laid a glove on Sparta all night. You know, and we lost a goal quite early on in the first half where the ball just sailed over the top of Andy Gore and at the far post. You know, so again, you know, the goalkeeper that would sign for £1 million, you know, didn't cover himself in glory at Tynecastle, didn't cover himself in glory in Europe, you know, and there's another couple of games where his jacket would be on a sugary peg, but we just didn't have a Scottish team performance that night. We weren't in amongst it. When you think back to last week, beating Dortmund, we harried, we chased, we pressed, you know, we battered them all over the park and looked dangerous. We were just so placid and so laid back, and you know, we went there and were schooled by a team who didn't have to go out of second gear, you know, and played in a poor pitch, and just, you know, we were probably fortunate only to come away 1-0 down with such a poor display. So,
of course. Obviously, this season the away goals has been scrapped, but I mean, even if we got a goal over there, we'd have had a half chance coming back, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
but,
I know.
But guys, sorry, guys, but even on the face of it, though, as poor as we were that night, a 1-0 defeat away in Europe shouldn't be catastrophic. I mean, at that time, because of the away goals, you want to try and score one, but you know, we had the, I don't know if it was a Scottish thing or a British thing, that the away goals rule really wasn't something that we concentrated on too much. You know, I mean, a 1-0 defeat away from home was probably accepted better than a 2-1 defeat would have been, although a 2-1 defeat would have been better for us. You know, but I mean, only losing by a goal, particularly as badly as we played that night, I would have said we still had a great chance to go through. You know, because let's be honest, we couldn't have played any worse in the second leg. But we'll get to that.
So we hope.
Get to that.
And then, so we come home, Wilf, and we've got St Mirren away, and Nisbet's in the goals again with Hoystra.
Yeah, same goal scorers as Falkirk, only different order this time. You know, and it's you know, we're still a point behind Hearts at the top of the league. You know, we actually go a goal down to St Mirren.
That's right.
You know, but yeah, we managed to pull it back. Again, the mark of a team that goes on to win things is you get goals from all over the park. You know, you don't just rely on a striker or a couple of strikers.
Yeah.
You know, getting goals from all over the place. Again, the underrated Hoostra. You know, Nizzy never let you down wherever you played him. I mean, Scott Nisbet, I think we touched on this on the previous series. Scott Nisbet must have played in almost every position for Rangers during his time with us. Yeah. You know?
Except goalie.
He's played it. He played predominantly in the defence, but he played in midfield. He played up front a couple of times.
Full-back.
And never let you down. But like I say, that's the sort of victories you need if you're going to go on and win titles.
I think they're the type of players you need as well. It's, you know, Scott Nisbet, he wasn't footballing ability-wise, he probably wasn't the most talented player in that team or other teams he played for at Rangers. But, you know, you need those type of players that are willing to play anywhere. Just, you know, where do you want me to play the day, Gaffer? I'll go and play there. I'll give you a shift. I'll give you a decent performance. It's not going to be great, but I'll give you a decent performance, especially in Scotland at that time as well, when you know, there's probably a few teams we were coming up against that were hammer chuckers. You needed those types of players that could dig in deep against them. So, yeah, I think Scott Nisbet, it probably gets a bit of unfair criticism these days. Say when we're looking back, we don't really talk about him so much because he's not one of the big names of the McCalls and the McCoists and the Durants and the Houstras. But yeah, the shift that he put in for Rangers for a few seasons, and the fact that he was willing to do it anywhere at all, just you know, it goes to show his character, but it goes to show how important it was to Rangers during this period.
Yeah, as I say, yeah, there's a lot of players that we've discovered, certainly in the last season, who you wouldn't sort of call them Rangers sort of icons, but the amount of games that they played in a season, you know, and the shifts they put in, and they're not heralded in the same as some other guys, you know, and that happens a lot, though, Alan, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably go through any Rangers team during any time period and speak to supporters who were there at the time, and you know they'll be able to pick out, players showing, you know what, he was absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get the credit it deserved because he wasn't the headline stealer. You know, I'm trying to think now of the team now. Of the team now, probably Scott Arfield would be in that position.
Yeah,
but you need players like that. You can't be successful without players like that.
Very true, absolutely true. So, John, we dip our feet into League Cup duties again, and we're up against Hibs in the semi-final, and yeah, all goes wrong that night, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Yep, I remember being at the game thinking, we've signed this goalkeeper who's sold the jerseys yet again. You know, and when you think about it, now this is the start of the Hibs Hampden hoodoo, possibly.
Mm.
You know, because it's just, you know, we lose to, was it Keith Wright? It scores just for about a yard out. Yeah, is it Mickey Weir floats it back in? Gorham comes out. Either punches our heads away. I can't remember.
He tried to punch it, I think, or he did punch it.
Knocks it away, and you know, and you know, and Alec Miller's side puts us at the cup. You know, our cup, our trophy. You know, I think we won it 7 times in about 8 years, and you know, we lose to a workman like Hibs side. No good, you know. So you know, a goalkeeper, John Burridge, in goals. Fuck.
You know, it wasn't until I seen the highlights today I seen John Burridge in goals, and I thought, my word, he must have been about 45 then.
Aye. Yeah, we're thinking Alan McGregor's old at 40. I mean,
yeah.
John, you're talking about the Hibs Hampden hoodoo, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And okay, we lost this one. You know the last time we beat Hibs at Hampden?
No, when was that?
The 1979 Scottish Cup final second replay.
The second replay, third game.
So even that took us 2 attempts.
Yeah, took us 3. It took us 3.
And we won that 3-2 with our own goal winning us the cup. That's the last time we beat Hibs at Hampden.
Yeah, but Hibs.
That's
Hibs
absolutely frightening. That's 40
40
odd years ago.
Yeah, but Hibs were second bottom the previous season. I mean, as we said in the last season, the Soonest Revolution, everybody was scoring Hibs. Hibs were, because I don't know if they'd done reconstruction or whatever from 10 to 12 or whatever, but Hibs were getting battered everywhere they went. They put us at the cup, you know, and it's as incredible as the 3-0 scudding, or 3-1 scudding they gave us earlier this season. Yeah. You know, embarrassing. Can I just tell a wee story on that about McCoy's? I don't think I put it in the notes. Apparently they're sitting after the game, and they're all sitting in the dressing room, and maybe you guys have heard it, and Gorham says, if I was still with fucking Hibs, I'd been in a League Cup final than now. And McCoy says, if you were with fucking Hibs, we'd been in a League Cup final than now. You know?
Yep.
And so I think that story's been told a few times, but you know, but Richard Goff wasn't in the side that night.
No.
You know, and I don't know if he was injured or not, but Goff, you know, and Brown and Nisbet centre backs.
Did Goff not miss a couple of games after that? Yeah.
Aye, it's not the next one either. Not the next one either. So.
Or the next one.
There's a way to say. So after another Hampden hoodoo, as we'll call it, we go away we stay at home, Aberdeen, Wilf, and two defeats in a row. This would be classed as a crisis nowadays.
This was the last time Aberdeen beat us at Ibrox until after we came back up from our financial problems and stuff. When they came, when they beat us, was it 3 seasons ago? Now they beat us, for the first time in however long it was. This was the last time they beat us. Before that, this is at the time, Silence of the Lambs was top of the box office, because I'll never forget the banner at Ibrox when they kept coming and not beating us, and they had Silence Silence of the Sheep since 1991. This was the last time they beat us at Ibrox.
Yeah, okay.
In 25 or 30 years or whatever it was. But I mean, Ian Jess and Brian Grant, scoring the goals. I mean, if Ian Jess played Rangers every week, he'd be the best player in the world.
Yeah.
He's
One
of these players who only ever seem to play against us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he looked like a world beater when he played us, or a panel beater when he played anybody else.
I actually remember, as I say this, I was growing up during this period, and I actually remember saying to my dad about Ian Jess, and I remember thinking, I don't know why we don't go and sign this guy, because he must be absolutely fantastic. My dad telling me that only turns up against Rangers.
Yeah,
and I think that was the first time I sort of realised that there were players in our teams that only turned up against Rangers. Because I thought this guy was absolutely fantastic.
There was loads of folk like you. I remember there was constant clamour, get him. Rangers supporter, apparently.
Yeah.
He was let go by Rangers.
Yeah, Rangers let him go when he was 13 or 14. He was originally from Portsoy, which is up between where I am and where Brian is, up on the Buchan coast. And by all accounts, Rangers supporter. That's why he tries so hard against us, but he never tried against anybody else. It seemed. I'm not saying he didn't try, but that's the way it appeared. And big stupid Brian Grant, him and Brian Irvine. I mean, how many times did the two of them score against us? It's just uncanny. Yep. They never scored against anybody else. They always scored against us. It's totally uncanny.
Yeah. And then John,
second league defeat of the season, second consecutive defeat. You know what I mean? It's not good.
No, not good at all. But I suppose the next, we're at home to Sparta Prague, John, and although it's a win, we win 2-1 and
win 2-1.
But we go out in away goals.
Yep. It was an own goal, wasn't it? It was an own goal. It goes through the arms of Gorham as he dives. Not. I don't know. It's not too dissimilar to the one McGregor had the other week up at Ross County, where he kind of dives funny but Gorham dives and the ball just goes through his hands, for about 8 yards out. And we go ahead in the tie, we go through. We're going through 2-0.
And so wait to say we're ahead in the tie, aren't we?
We're ahead, we're ahead. And I think it might be extra time we're going. And Gorham, League Cup, Gorham maybe at fault, Tynecastle at fault, and now in Europe. So, he's not having a good time at it.
No.
So and the game at Sparta, the first game where he lobbed at the back post. So Gorham is not covering himself in glory. McCall scores his first goal for Rangers that night. And then and gets his second goal with a volley.
At this point in the season, do you think Gorham's keeping his place in the team? First of all, the fact that he came with a bit of a price tag, £1 million, a lot of money in 1991. But secondly, that we basically never had a backup goalkeeper. Do you think he kept his place in the team because there was nobody else to play in goals?
Yeah, I think he did. I
would agree. Yeah.
I think if we had had a backup goalkeeper at the time, I know we signed Ali Maxwell later in the season, but if we'd signed Ali Maxwell earlier in the season, he might have found himself with the number 1 jersey a lot sooner than he realised.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we didn't sign Ali Maxwell earlier in the season then.
It was maybe a good thing that we had to stick with Gorham, and he got the opportunity to redeem himself.
Yeah. I think he said in the season review that he suffered a drop in confidence, didn't he?
I'm not surprised. So
even he, because he I think he said in the video that he's like, I couldn't believe it when other people said that they've got a bad their confidence is down, because he says I just couldn't see that happening to me. He says, but it was bizarre because I never felt ever like that in my life.
Yeah, I think it maybe just goes to show as well that it's
different pressure
coming from a team like Hibs. It's the Rangers shirt's a lot heavier.
Yeah, if you're playing as a goalkeeper on some of these sides where you're getting 15, 20 shots a game and you're pulling off 5 worldly saves or whatever every week, then you're at the fore. And maybe I think over the last couple of seasons there's been a wee clamour about signing a St Johnstone goalkeeper, and now it's Seagrass for Dundee United.
Mm-hmm.
Will we sign him? And there's these guys are shot stoppers and having great performances week in, week out, because they're getting a lot of shots to save. And Gorham with Hibs second bottom of previous season would have been getting 5, 6, 7 decent saves a game, and
still losing 2-0.
Still losing 2-0, but they're looking good. But at Ibrox, you've got one save. That's it. You only need to turn up once, and it's the one save you don't make. Is what you're down for. Is a la Hibs, a la Sparta away.
Hearts you're just crucified, aren't you?
Yeah. You're called on once, and you need to be ready for it. Yeah.
So after the European exit, we go to Airdrie, Wolf, and the goals are raining again in a clean sheet.
Yeah, about time we got a decent result, kept a clean sheet, and scored some goals. Again, similar to places like Falkirk and Dunfermline, we should always be playing Airdrie and taking 4 or 5 off them, because that's just the sort of team Airdrie are. I mean, I think Airdrie probably went down this season, if I remember rightly.
No, they finished 7th and qualified for the Cup Winners.
Cup Winners Cup.
Yeah.
Well, they got the Cup Winners Cup because they got the Scottish Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they finished 7th.
Yeah. So I thought they did. Just looking at that, so they did.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You know what I mean? They had 13 wins. I mean, that's more than I remember them ever winning. But I mean, we should be looking at teams like Airdrie and just rolling them over.
Yeah.
Because with the best will in the world, Airdrie are just Airdrie. They're not. They shouldn't even be. They weren't even near the same level as us.
No.
But probably, I would say, after the sort of run of form we'd been on, probably the ideal game to have.
Yeah.
Because they're the sort of team you should be beating quite handily. Again, Big Nissy scoring goals again.
And then, Alan, we go at home to Hibs. Again, scoring a lot of goals, but we've let in a couple this time. But I mean, McCoist in the goals, Hoystra. It's all familiar goal scorers, isn't it?
Yeah, same names cropping up all the time, getting in amongst the goals. But another victory that we've not kept the clean sheet. We've got the points. I think sometimes we, especially during this period, we can maybe be a wee bit unfair to teams like Hibs. But as I said earlier, the gulf in class wasn't as great. They were a lot closer to us. Teams like Hibs and Hearts at the time as well, even though, as we heard, Hibs had finished second bottom. But, you're winning 4-2. I would happily win every game 4-2. We won a game 4-2 just last week and we're all wax lyrical about it. So absolutely no issues with it whatsoever.
No.
Getting the own goal as well. I don't know, were we 3-0 up in this game?
No, 1-0 down. We went 1-0 down. And,
1-0 down.
We lost a couple of defenders early on because we had to bring on Chris Finnecombe, who hadn't been seen this season.
That's right.
And David Robertson and Brown, both went off early doors. Yeah, and we're 1 down. In fact, we scored all 4 goals in the second half.
That's that, yeah.
That'd have been an interesting half-time team talk.
That would have been. And do you know what? Probably get a bit grinding out a bit of a result as well, actually. So, quite happy with 4-2.
Yeah. And we go away.
Can I just say to you on that game, we get pegged back to 2 each, and then McCoist does the three-man free kick routine where you knock it to the side, stop it, then hit it. Remember Lee McCulloch used to try that every week during the years, and it never worked.
Yeah,
so that was a good one, I suppose, because Hibs had put us out the cup 3 or 4 weeks earlier.
Yeah,
so
a bit of revenge.
Lose 2 defenders. A bit of revenge, good.
Yeah,
sorry guys.
That's okay. No. And then Wolf, we go up to Perth and a bit of a grind, 3-2. Wasn't the easiest game for us.
Yeah, I mean 3-2 St Johnstone. I don't know why, but we always seem to struggle in Perth.
Yeah.
I mean, very rarely, even these days, do we go to Perth and make it easy for ourselves. There's been 1 or 2, sort of 4-1s, 4-0 and things, but I mean, a win in Perth, we always seem to make it difficult for ourselves. I mean, we went 2-0 up in this game, and then I don't know what happened after that, but I mean, we closed it out, so they managed to get back to 2-2. It's inexplicable why we go 2 up against the team like St Johnstone and get pulled back to 2-2, particularly with the team that's out. I mean, okay, we're still missing Goff, but we've still got a fairly strong defence. noticed that John Morrow's playing. He didn't play a lot of games this season.
Yeah, I was thinking that
He's in the
was
midfield.
John McGregor.
John Morrow.
John Morrow.
John Morrow, not an Irish boy.
Yeah, that's right.
Ford, yeah.
I dare say you've got a wee story about this, John, the managers.
Yeah, the managers had a disagreement, didn't they? And
They did, yes.
they were cautioned by the police, I think, at half time or at the end of the game. You know, and Smith and Totten, I think they ended up in court. I think they did go to court, but the two of them are the best of pals. They're good friends. You know, I think they had a disagreement maybe a bit ago or something like that. You know,
I'm sure Walter said that it was probably the least favourite moment he's ever had as a football manager. It was the most embarrassed he'd ever been was because of that, because they both left the stadium.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think he said they had to tell Ethel, didn't he? That was the worst part.
Probably was going to Ethel and the judge.
So, you know, but as you say, we shouldn't be getting pegged back to 2-2, you know, and winning it. So, but at least we won it, I suppose. But yeah, and Nisbet again with a winner. Yeah.
And I suppose I've just looked at the timer in the top corner there, so we'll call this the last one because we're an hour 6 deep, and I think John was only asking for 50 minutes max. So we'll discuss this game, and then we'll
tight hamstring. Got a tight hamstring.
But Alan, we play Hearts at home. Again, familiar goal scorers, McCoist and Mikalichenko.
And McCoist's getting 7 goals there in 4 league matches, so starting to pick up the type of form that saw him win the Golden Boot this year. But yeah, familiar names again. Even look at the lineup, familiar names again. John Morrow getting his second start of the season. I think he only played 3 or 4 games that season. So yeah, still a strong team. Goff coming back into the team as well. So you're going out, you're playing the team that are challenging you at this point for the league title as well. So it's a massive game to come up at. You know, especially since our form has been a little bit ropey. I know we've beat St Johnstone 3-2, but we conceded 2 goals. Same with Hibs. But really, before that, other than the Airdrie game where we beat them 4-0, you know, we were losing games, we were struggling a little bit. So this was a big. This would have been a really big test. But yeah, strong team, and 2 good goals actually. This was one of the games that I did watch back. So 2 good goals, grind out the result. I can't remember if I was at this game or not, but I think it would have been happy bears going home that night.
And it wasn't unlike Mikalichenko for a toe poke, was it, Wolf?
No, I mean, he was, as I said, I think he seemed to enjoy his life and do as little as possible. I mean, quite a lot of games with Mikalichenko, you could probably have fucking put him on a string from the halfway line, and not a very long string, and he wouldn't have moved very far. But yeah, I mean, he was a bit of an enigma because he was an imperious talent. He was a great talent, but he just didn't seem to be bothered half the time. He was so laid back, you know. And I mean, he did enjoy a tap in, but tap-ins normally came because we had the set piece, because that's the only reason he'd have time to get into the box, because he didn't seem to run about a lot. But he didn't have to. I mean, the guy was a class football player. I mean, he's another one that doesn't get the thought about the way that he really should, because he absolutely wasn't. He was a Rolls Royce of a football player. He really was.
And no way much. On you go, John.
When you look back at that season, he made 31 appearances and scored 12 goals. That's not bad. You know, that's better than 1 in 3.
And he never always played as a centre forward either. You know, he played quite a few games in midfield. So
that's what I'm saying. When he's played in midfield, you could probably just if he really left the centre circle, but he didn't have to.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's a goal every 2.5 games. That's no bad going, is it?
Pretty good. Yeah. No, that's pretty good
for that season. Yeah. So.
And when I say this, I'm no shape way comparing Mikalichenko to these 2 players, but the similarities are there. Great left foots, no right foots. Reminds me of sort of Cooper and Baxter, doesn't it? Can do everything with a left foot, but don't ask him to do anything with his right.
Yeah, other than stand on it.
Because it was pretty much
the other similarity to Baxter is he liked a drink as well, did Miko?
And a fag, probably.
Yeah.
Well, the Russians are, definitely. Liked a bit of vodka, probably. But as I say, I was promised John 50 minutes, and we're on to 1 minute.
You may as well finish with the Falkirk game because there's not much happening in that, is there? You may as well just go for that.
Okay, right, we'll go on that. So Falkirk are home, John, 1-1 with Johnston scoring. No Haitley this time, so it was the McCoist Johnston up front.
Yep. Haitley come on as a sub. We got a point against Falkirk, and no matter how much I tried to look for this game, I couldn't get any video footage. I couldn't find any press footage. The Dundee Courier didn't have anything on it, so no, couldn't get anything apart from just a snippet. It just said lackluster display. That was it. Even trying Falkirk forums and everything to try and get something on this game.
If John can't find it, it doesn't exist.
I think the fact you can't find anything tells you just how bad a game it was.
Probably. In front of 36,000 fans as well.
Which would have been a full Ibrox at the time. That would have been the capacity at that time.
Well, as I say, I thought this happened later, a couple of seasons later, but obviously, Wolf, we'll cover this in the next episode, but this was soon to be your new home, wasn't it? The new seat.
Yeah, my new seat was officially open just at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Instead of getting a signing, we got a new stand this time, John.
We did, yep. It's 17 million pound. No, 20 million pounds. 17 months it took to build. 7,169 seats, or 7,168 seats plus Wolves. Yeah. So,
and I never sat in it the day they opened it.
Did you not?
I couldn't make the game. I gave a ticket to my mate. But we'll get to that when we cover.
We'll cover that in the next episode.
Yeah.
But no, this will be going out on YouTube for the members, and it'll be going out on Patreon. And as I say, this is a continuation of the Soonest Revolution. So if you really want to catch up with that, join in the Patreon, and you can catch up on all the Soonest episodes. And this is just, as I say, we're following up from that because we thoroughly enjoyed doing it. So join the Patreon and you'll get all that. So you'll get the podcasts from Acast, Spotify, YouTube, whatever, iTunes. So my thanks to Alan. First stint on, but you enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I love taking trips down memory lanes.
Yeah, good. And thanks to John and Wolf as usual.
Thanks, guys. I enjoyed that tonight. It was a good one.
Good. Yeah, thanks, guys. Before we sign off, I'd like to point you in the direction of a couple of interviews that are on the site. One that dropped yesterday as we record this, or today, in fact, as we record this, with David Herd, whose book 1872, about 72 of players from the 1880s to the 1950s, is out on next Tuesday. So I had an interview with him. There's also one that's coming on to Patreon on Saturday that's discussing the disabled facilities at Ibrox, which, quite frankly, are an absolute abomination.
Yep.
With Tim Webb, who's a wheelchair user, and Heather Johnson, who's wee James's mum.
Okay.
An interview with them yesterday. That's dropping sometime over the weekend, so look out for that, guys.
Yeah.
Superb.
Excellent.
And then obviously next week we'll be back with more of this nonsense.
Well, as I say, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you up on episode 2. So thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.